Good morning, and yay, it's time for us to take a quick look at what's happening on the covers of the dailies this morning. I'm going to start with the Daily Trust. Mazino, of course, is right here, and we're going to see what we can do to, give a little more insight on what the headlines are. It says here, Democracy Day, bear with me on subsidy removal. Tinubu tells Nigerians, promises investments in power, transportation, healthcare, others, pays tribute to Abiola Yaradua, others, and use gains to deepen Nigeria's democracy, says IBB here. Atiku and Obi react. All that's on the cover. It also says here, on subsidy removal, road transportation costs compete with airfares. Now, we already started talking a bit about that.
We were talking about that from earlier when this weekend people were pleased to actually find out that there has been a fraction removed from how much you might be paying if you're going to be using air transportation. And that is actually quite worrying because at this point, maybe it's even best to just pay for a flight instead of going by road with all the associated risks that you might face when it comes to the roads these days. If I'm paying the same thing, maybe I might as well just. I still don't understand exactly how the removal of subsidy has affected the aviation industry, the price of aviation fuel. Not just that, there's cooking gas. We still can't explain that. And I must say that we've got better power right now, and people are using less and less fuel for their generators or homes. Instead, maybe you might be spending much if you are driving from place to place. But at least these things, you can see that some ripple effect is affecting these other matters and helping alleviate some of the suffering or pains that we might have been experiencing since the removal.
There is, quite a debate on whether, road transportation versus air transportation. It's always been a debate, especially here. But in terms of speed, obviously, flights are definitely faster. But then there was a time that the cost of jet fuel went up quite a bit. I'm not sure whether that has leveled out or it's just found a balance somewhere. We should really look out for that story and watch out for developments there. But there is also the Nation newspaper here. You did say you wanted to mention...
Yeah, so Nation newspaper has quite similar headlines as its big story for this morning here on Monday, June 12th. Why we must defend our democracy by Tinubu. If you listen to the speech, he said plenty about that. He says, expect better deal from me. Judicial reform has started. Abiola's sacrifice should not be in vain. That in particular was what I found very interesting in his speech from this morning. And at the top of the Nation newspaper first page, My Nigeria Air Story by ex-minister Shirika. Very interesting, and I think that everybody who's very interested in the aviation system should actually read this one. Minister gets only 3 billion naira. Lawmaker says 5% equity claim is a big lie. Well, the other big story from the Nation this morning, Titi, is Emefiele's exit and the fireworks before suspension. Friday evening, everybody left work, and then finally we got the information about his suspension and then eventually his arrest. And there's plenty expectations regarding how that's going to affect the market, even the dollar, even the aviation system, and all of that. However, regarding the exact reason, there's investigation still going on regarding his efforts as the CBN governor and all of that. And plenty of other auxiliary or ancillary topics have been coming up. His attempts to want to still be CBN governor and be presidential run for presidency, aspirant and all of that. So there's plenty to actually unpack from this story, but especially the fact that maybe by tomorrow we'll begin to see the effect of this suspension perhaps and his substitution. Maybe it's all part of the reform that the president spoke about from much earlier. So we wait to see where the investigation will go and where the effect of this suspension will take us.
I was actually going to, say that, of course, whenever headlines like this come out on social media, there's often an uproar, and there's been a little back and forth, like a for and against kind of situation, trying to understand the main motive behind the suspension, because...
You see, the funny thing about it, the Emefiele issue is that every single person is interested. This is not one of those instances where somebody in higher office gets suspended and everybody's like, and I don't own let it. Every single person is related to this because it affected everybody, especially with the Naira reform policy, which seems to be like comatose at this point. When was the last time you saw a brand new, not even just a brand new, when was the last time you saw a new Naira note, a new
the new design.
New design. Think about it. So much being talked about the fact that there was only 1/7 of the amount that we needed that was printed, as against everything that was recouped from the system, where it went, how much people suffered, people died during the time, how it affected every single citizen. And the people who were actually supposed to call the then central bank governor to order sat down and did nothing.
And didn't,
Plenty of fingers being pointed at the National Assembly. Where are you representing Nigeria from? How are you representing Nigeria? What did you do in this instance when you saw the citizenry suffering? There's so much to unpack.
There is
I'm
quite a
really
lot to
affected,
unpack.
so I'm very passionate about it.
But there are still some areas where people are asking how lawful the suspension actually is. We are definitely going to be watching
end of that investigation.
Exactly.
We should just be patient.
Sure.
And see where that takes us.
We still have another paper with us here. It's the Daily Times we have. It says here on the NAS inauguration tomorrow, ethno-religious issues top the Senate presidency tussle. There'll be religious crisis if Akpabio loses, warns VP Shetima. It also says at the top here, orderly room trial, summary dismissal await 12 customs officers allegedly involved in cross-border petrol smuggling. Now, that has been a conversation that quite a few have been talking about. Let's see, on Nigeria Air, Reps Aviation Committee Chair asked me for 5%, says Sirika. Naira wobbles, stock market down amid Emefiele's suspension or detention, according to World Bank. And right at the bottom, it says here, Obasanjo backs quest to support 25,000 Nigerians in business annually. I wanted to sort of jump on this issue of cross-border petrol smuggling. You know, there were so many instances where we saw videos. We're not sure how accurate those videos were, what time they were actually representing, but videos of some tankers trying to cross the border that had been stopped by customs officials with the mindset that they were going to be sold across the border for exorbitant prices based on the former fuel price that we had here in Nigeria. Now, the fact that 12 customs officers, just 12, customs officers
that we know
of allegedly involved have actually been
who else would be involved in such an issue except people who are in certain positions?
Exactly.
There's an ecosystem at the border where people know what they're supposed to do illegally, and it's gone on for many years.
I know you've crossed the border quite a few times.
So I've seen these things happen. I've seen people, you know, I've seen the shenanigans that happen with especially people in uniform over the borders and all. But then it doesn't start there. It starts from higher up.
Sure.
There's an entire system that is, how do you put it? It's an engine, let me put it so. There's also effect outside of Nigeria regarding the fuel subsidy removal here in Nigeria. That means from before, I mean, I was in Cotonou last month, and I remember buying fuel at converted 500 naira per liter. Now I bet you it must be more than that. So imagine the effect on them and how that is going to affect their economy as well. Borders are open
some bloggers on social media have mentioned that prices of petrol in places like Cotonou hit up to about 700 at a point.
It could be
and
more.
There were certain protests, whether online or actual physical, I'm not sure, but they were protesting. And it just made everybody raise their eyebrows as to how, you know, how important the economy of Nigeria is to the surrounding countries. Now, we will be following this particular story as well, especially when it comes to the cross-border petrol issues. But we have to take a quick break now at this point. Thank you so much for joining us. Give us your comments and contributions. Use our hashtag WakeupNigeria on TVC and let us know what you think about today's headlines.